Bem-vindo ao Famílias Bilíngues, um podcast promovido pelo Jeanne, grupo de estudos em aquisição da linguagem da Neste de Araraquara, em parceria com o Programa Institucional de Internacionalização Ep.6. Olá a todos, meu nome é Paula, sou pesquisadora de bilinguismo do grupo Jeanne de Araraquara e bem-vindos a mais um podcast Famílias Bilíngues, que a gente está conversando com famílias que falam mais de uma língua em casa. E hoje a gente tem uma convidada especial, a Jeanne, e ela não fala português, então o nosso podcast vai ser em inglês. Jeanne, welcome and thanks for talking to us today.
Hi, hello.
I would like you, if you could tell us a bit about your family, the languages that you speak, the environment.
So I am a German citizen. So I was born and grew up in Germany, but I was growing up already with two languages myself, that being German and Turkish. And I married, my husband is German as well, but with a Filipino background. So his mother is from the Philippines. And we moved away from Germany. So we first went to Italy, and from Italy we went to London. And it's in London that we got our two children. And there we had to make a big decision which languages to choose. And I had by the time I reached London, I could already speak 6 languages myself. And my husband struggles a lot with languages, but he managed to, plus Italian a little bit. So for us, it was obvious that he would take over German. And I had to make a decision which of my other 5 languages other than German I should be choosing, so our children could grow up with 3 languages. And that decision wasn't easy.
So how did you decide it?
I had a long conversation with my friend Alessandra, who is a linguist researcher, and in-depth decision while I was pregnant with my first child. And her suggestion was it has to be a mother tongue, and I have to love the language I'm speaking, because the children will feel it when you don't like the language. So these were the main 2 factors for me. So it was very hard for me to make a decision, because mother tongue is German and Turkish, and but Turkish was very, very, very weak. So it wasn't really also a language I liked. I loved French and I loved Italian and I loved Spanish, but I didn't like Turkish at all. And German was my strongest, obviously. I was born in Germany and my whole education was in German, but my husband was already taking that over. So for me, I was trapped, and my choice was first French, but Alessandra recommended not to choose French because it's not my mother tongue. And I agreed with her, and so my decision was to choose Turkish in the end. So
in the end, you speak Turkish with the children, is
Correct.
it?
Correct.
Okay.
And my husband spoke German, and outside our home, they were speaking English.
Okay. And with you and your husband, do you talk to each other in German?
Yes, we speak German, yeah. We speak German at home, and we strictly separated the language. So he was asked not to speak English at all, only German. And we have lots of German books as well at home, so he didn't need to translate anything. And we agreed that I would carry over anything English in addition to the Turkish. That means not translating the English books, but I would be only one reading the English books. And in terms of homework, I would be the one in charge of the homework, because you can't translate that either. So we had to stick to English. So the children are used to me speaking to them in English and Turkish, but they're not used to it. And they found it very strange when their father is speaking English to them. So the alarm bells are going on. As soon as he speaks English, they're telling him off, actually.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
And how do you feel about talking a language that you said you didn't like so much?
Very hard. It was at the beginning, I was very embarrassed because I didn't know if somebody is actually hearing me talking Turkish, because it was so weak. And I didn't like to speak a language with difficulty. I love to speak fluently, whatever. I try to express myself in the proper way. So I kind of, like, when I was on a bus, for instance, and I had my baby in my buggy, I hardly spoke. So I didn't want to say anything, so nobody would eventually hear me. London is a very international, community. You have like lots of different nations and cultures here, and lots of languages, so many different languages. And I was sure that there is probably somebody sitting in this bus who could hear me and asking, like, what is this woman talking about, But over time, I gained knowledge and I gained confidence, and it was a nice way to kind of like start to like the language again. So I met the language again in a different context, and it was funny, me translating like books. Sometimes I didn't know what a squirrel means in Turkish, or raspberries in Turkish. So I had to laugh about myself, that basic stuff I didn't know, but I learned it. And I improved it over the years. So with my second child, it was much easier, and I was confident, and I was okay to speak outside. And it went so far that my aunt asked me, like, if I met any Turkish people who are my friends now. I said no. I said, why do you say that? She said, because your Turkish is so good now that I'm really surprised. And yeah, so it was a good encounter and good development.
Nice. And the children, how did they react, and how do they react now about growing up with these three languages?
So they're very dominant English, which I understand. They do understand everything we're saying in German, and they do understand everything we're saying in Turkish. They visit a German Saturday school to improve their German a bit more, because this is probably the next destination for us after UK, to go back to Germany, and they would need to continue going to school in Germany. So that was our top priority. Turkish, however, is just reduced down to me as their mother, whom they are communicating to. So they do understand, but they hardly speak, and they don't write, and they don't read. But they can sometimes, if they want to, they use it. But it's not that when I speak to them in Turkish that they respond back in Turkish. They respond back in English. They do the same in German. Although in German, sometimes it happens that they are actually speaking to us in German as well, especially when we are visiting family or friends in Germany. But at the beginning, it was very funny for us to hear them, because they had an extremely heavy British accent when they were speaking German, which was very strange for us, being both native German people. So almost like these are not our children, like somebody else's children. So when you could hear us speaking and them speaking, it was not really matching.
Yeah, because they live in a country that speaks English, so it was the strongest language. Yeah.
Correct. But then growing in a household where everybody's speaking like not English, you would expect that maybe their phonics will be the same, the phonetic will be the same, but it's not. They are more identifying themselves as British rather than German or Turkish.
I understand. And you said that they answer back in English, but have they ever refused of speaking or listening to other languages?
No, never refused, mainly because we didn't force them. We know friends who are making it as a condition. So when you don't speak now in German, you're not going to get, I don't know, half an hour media time. You can't watch your movies when you don't speak German. Or they say, oh, you want to have chocolate? You don't get chocolate if you don't ask me in German. We never did that. So we always try to connect it with some positive elements, and we left it totally up to them to, if they want to speak, they speak. If they don't, then it's fine. We don't put them under pressure. But they finding it themselves really exciting. Like, for instance, when we went somewhere one day and there was a family, a Turkish family, speaking to each other, my little one could understand exactly what they were saying. Then she turned around, looked at me with her eyes big, and then she said, "Mommy." I said, "What?" She said, "I understood everything they were saying." That was really funny for her, because she was used to speak, not to speak, but to hear this language just with me at home in a safe place where there's nobody else around. And then suddenly she's outside and there is this other family. She doesn't know them and she can understand what they're talking about. So that was a very key moment for her, I think.
A surprising moment. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And how was the reaction of teachers at school when, because probably they knew that the children had other languages at home. So how was this deal with the school? Was there any problem or?
Yes, I mean, not really big problems, but a tiny bit. Like my older one, for instance, it was harder for her to catch up and being as advanced as others probably in her year group. But the first thing that teachers forgot about is she's born in the summer, so she's one of the youngest children in her cohort. And on top of it, she's a very big girl. So when you see her, you wouldn't think that she's one of the youngest. You would think that she was born in autumn, so being one of the oldest. So first mistake that they were doing by looking only at her without ignoring her age. And second is what they also missed is that she was actually growing up with 3 languages at the same time compared to another child growing up with 1 language. So obviously they knew that she would be slower, but they assured me, because the worries they were more on my side rather than their side. I told them, is there a problem? Do you see anything that she's behind, or she's like having difficulties to catch up or to even understand in the classroom? And they said I shouldn't be worried, she's all fine. And she's at the expected level for her age group, and that it will only require a certain period of time until she will be absolutely on the same level. And that was the case. So she's very strong, my older one, as much as my younger one, with their English. So I have no concerns about it.
Okay, and can they also write in German? Because you said they were going to a German school, is it?
Yes, they do write. It is not such a strict school. It is like they have only like two classes, 2 hours. 1 hour is reading, writing, listening to stories, and speaking. And the second half of the day is arts and crafts, but all done in German, or games whatsoever. So they connect a lot of fun elements with it. In the first session, they do some writing, like some sentences where they leave out a few words and the children need to fill in the missing words. So they do a little bit of grammar, but the German grammar is really difficult. It's not as easy as the English one, for instance. And spelling as well is not always written the way you're speaking, you're talking. So again, we are not doing extra studies work at home for them. We just think, let's take it easy. We don't want them to be scared of a language. We want them to connect lots of positive elements with the language, to be still excited and curious about it.
Yeah. And apart from the language, do you try to bring any cultural aspects from the other languages that you speak?
Absolutely. Yes, we do. I mean, by the fact that we travel like to Germany very often, so they have a lot of insight into the culture there. And we also arranged a visit in a school in Germany over 2 years, like every time we went, and they went like a day or 2 days. in order just to know how a German school looks like. But culture-wise, we do like when we have, for instance, in UK in the school, there is a international welcome day, for instance, and we bake and cook something German. So we have a discussion about that. Then they are dressing up like a Bavarian, Bavarian dress, a dirndl they call them. So they both have a dirndl. And with Turkish, what do we do in Turkish actually? They listen to music, but both German and Turkish, so they can hear the language being in songs. Traveling wise, we've been in Turkey only once, because only once, I think, or twice, once or twice in their lifetime we've been in Turkey, so not that much. It's more Germany.
Okay. And have you ever had any funny situations in your family caused by the fact that you speak more than two languages, that you speak a lot of languages? Do you remember any funny situation?
Oh, there have been a few funny things, but I don't remember them anymore. I think no, I can't tell you now.
Yeah, probably related to words. Yes, like
Yes, yeah. There were a few. I don't remember which words they were, but with my mom, because my mom speaks. So my mom speaks German, Turkish, and Kurdish. Where I don't speak Kurdish, but she speaks Kurdish. And she's good with her German, but she's more comfortable with Turkish, obviously. And that was another thing why I wanted my children to know Turkish better, is because I thought French and Italian and Spanish, they're probably going to learn later on in life. And there will be lots of opportunities in schools and universities to learn these languages as well, because they're more like international. Turkish is very limited. You would need to have really good reason to learn Turkish. Is not obvious. So I thought if they learn Turkish, eventually they could even learn Hungarian and Finnish easier, because they're coming from the same route. But also when they travel to Turkey, they could eventually understand other people who are not able to speak any other language. And so for my mom, it's a good thing. Where my older sister, she didn't do that. She refused to teach her daughter Turkish, and so it's very hard for my niece to communicate with her grandparents.
Yeah, and your husband's family, do they speak German as well?
His father is German, his mother is from the Philippines, and his mother is an absolute chaotic linguistically, because she knows Tagalog, she knows Cebuano, she knows English, and obviously, and then she learned German in Germany. So when she's speaking, she mixes, and now she knows Spanish as well. So all of this being mixed up. Sometimes she uses one sentence with all the languages, and you don't know what actually she wants to say. So before we met her with the children, we introduced our children when they were born, the first visit in Germany, we asked her, you have to make a decision which language you're going to speak to the children. Obviously, it can't be Cebuano and Tagalog, because you would not have enough time to spend with them in order to be able to speak in these languages. So it could either be English or it has to be German, one of these two. And we were surprised actually about her choice, because we thought she would choose English, and she didn't. She chose German.
Wow. Yes. Okay. Yes. And so now she communicates with the children in German.
In German only, yes. And she's not mixing up with English, even though it's the children as respond, which is really, really strange for us, because my husband grew up with a mom's mixing everything.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, nice. And just to finish, I would like to know if you have ever had any particular situation in the society, something that people said it wouldn't be a good idea to speak a lot of languages with the children, or people saying that this wouldn't be good.
There are some. they do say that, and there are others, they are the opposite. And we also have friends who got their children after our children, and they took us as a role model, and they copied our approach, which is making us a bit proud about. And we also have friends. For instance, we have a Spanish friend. He's married to a Spanish lady, but he was born and grew up in Germany. He migrated back to Madrid. He's very good with his German because he's native, but he refused to speak German with his children. And everybody was begging him, please speak German. It's such a good skills for the children later in their life. And he refused. His wife tried it, his sister tried it, his parents tried it. We tried to convince him. We gave so many arguments why it's beneficial. And his argument was he doesn't feel comfortable living in Spain, speaking German to his children. So they grew up without one of the most important languages, probably, and important for their career. When one day they decide to go back to Germany and maybe work there, he took that opportunity away from them, unfortunately.
Yeah, and the learning afterwards, it's not the same as growing
it's
up
not the
with.
same. Exactly.
Yes.
It's not the same. And so for us, we faced all of them. So we ignored the people who tried to criticize us for doing what we were doing. We ignored them because we were convinced we do the right thing. Sometimes I was doubting. Sometimes I had the moments where I thought, maybe I do a mistake. Maybe they're right. Maybe I should give all my emphasis on one language and make them strong in that one language. But my mother's always told me, like, every language is a key into another world. So the more keys you give them, the more world they will discover and the better humans they're going to be. So I think I will stick to that philosophy, and I don't think we did a mistake. I think we did the right thing, and we gave them the opportunity. It's up to them to pick it up or not. So we can't force them.
Yes. Very beautiful, this about having the key of other words. It's very beautiful. Okay. Thanks a lot for your time and for talking to us. It was a pleasure. Okay.
Pleasure on my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Esse foi um bate-papo, então, com a Jeanne, lá de Londres, conversando com a gente, aqui para o podcast Famílias Bilíngues, promovidos pelo Jeanne. E este foi o Famílias Bilíngues, um podcast promovido pelo Jeanne, grupo de estudos em aquisição da linguagem da Unesp de Araraquara, em parceria com o Programa Institucional de Internacionalização CAPES-Print.